Well, Mike McCool here. I'm with the Royal Examiner. I'm in the home of Harry Bowen. Harry, you're going to be 100 years old here in a few months,
Well,
I guess.
I tell everybody, don't make an old man out of me yet.
I know. I think I'm old till I come over here.
I got 5 more months to go.
You'll make it. You'll make it. Well, I had an appointment with Harry, and we had a little confusion on the time. So he blamed it on being old, and then he pointed at me. So it was my fault. We apologize for that. But here Harry comes pulling up in his car. He went grocery shopping. So Harry, you're an inspiration to all of us that are going to be reaching that 100-year point.
Well,
We're going to talk about all the things you do, but you're on the bowling team.
yes, there's haven't thrown me off yet.
Right. You hold your own?
Yes, that I can say I do. Right. I think last week before last, I guess it was, I was high man.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Now, are all these people on your team 100 years old, or you?
No, not quite. I no longer throw the ball on an approach. I walk up there first and stand and then throw the ball.
Oh, well, that's okay. You're still throwing it. You're not using that little kitty thing you stick on there.
I've been tempted to, but they won't let me.
Once you reach 100, you can use that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Well, you be sure and tell them that, will you?
Well, now, how long have you lived in Front Royal?
85.
1985.
Yes.
That's pretty good time. You're almost a local.
Well, I said Front Royal.
Warren County.
That's quite not true. Warren County, when we first moved here, we moved about 5 miles down the road there at a development.
Mm-hmm.
That name's not quite coming to me yet.
It will.
And yeah, it will as soon as you leave. And then we was driving around, we saw this lot here for sale, so we bought it from Eddie Morrison.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's 2 lots.
Right.
And in 85, I told her, they said, well, we're about ready to build. He said, well, okay, tell me what you want. So I sketched out a floor plan and the house, and then he built it. You notice the house built kind of backwards. That's because my wife spent all her time in the kitchen, and when she looked out the window, she wanted to see something.
Yeah, she didn't want to look out and see the hillside. She wanted to see a view.
Right. And so that's why the kitchen is at the front.
There you go.
She had a window to look out.
There you go.
And
You sound like one of those guys that your wife belongs in the kitchen and she should go there right after work.
well, I didn't have to tell her to go to the kitchen. She was in there making cookies all the time.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, it got to the point where people referred to her as the cookie lady.
There you go. That's good.
And but which was okay with me, and okay with her too.
Yeah. So where did you move from when you came to Warren County?
Maryland. I quit the name of the town, left me over on the other side of D.C.
Uh-huh. And you retired? Or have been retired?
Yes. I retired from there and lived there for a few years and decided it was time to build. And
Get out of the city, huh?
well, we were on vacation one time over in West Virginia, up there on the mountain, Canaan Valley.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
I know it was called Canaan Valley. It's called Canaan, but up there the people call it Canaan, and they have a right to pronounce their name any way they want to.
Exactly.
So I call it Canaan Valley. We were coming home from there and coming all the back roads came out 55. And when we drove through this town, my wife and I both said, this is like a nice place to retire to. And so when it came time to retire and move, we came out here and started looking around.
There you go.
And did. And I've never regretted it. I have lived here longer than I have ever lived anywhere in my life. We've moved around a good bit.
Right.
I'm from West Virginia originally, and so is my wife, and then I moved to Cumberland, Maryland, and I moved in Baltimore, Maryland, moved Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, I moved up to New Jersey, and moved back down to Philadelphia, back down to Maryland.
Grass doesn't grow under your feet, does it?
That's right. We were hardly more than 5 years at a one place,
Wow,
all during
Is
that.
that because of your job?
Yes,
What did you do?
I was an inspector for an insurance company, mechanical, electrical inspector, and the insurance company insured factories, and we insured their machinery. So I would go in and inspect the machinery, particularly the electrical side of it, the motors also, and generators and that sort of thing. And it was quite interesting. And they're looking for any weak points and what they would do if they lost the main drive or the main piece of equipment that they had. What could they do to get back into production, because we're also ensuring loss of production,
Exactly.
and that gets kind of high.
Yeah, yeah.
And
They don't like risk for some reason. Insurance companies don't like risk.
no, they don't. And we did some fancy things to get them back into production.
Yeah.
There
Time
was-
is money.
Beg pardon?
Time is money.
Oh yeah, there
Yeah.
was a plant up in Pennsylvania
Yeah.
that had a motor-driven DC generator to drive a mill they had. And they used DC because they could control the speed. AC can't do that. And they lost the drive, which means they were out of production altogether. So we got where's Western Maryland diesel engine pulled in down beside their plant, and their diesel engines drive DC motors for their engines, so they had the DC on there. And then we wired up their DC to the plant, got the plant back into production,
Yeah.
which was one of the most fancy ones we ever did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but that was the idea.
Sure, sure. Now, you were born in 1921
Yes,
in West Virginia.
yes, in Parkersburg.
All right.
But I only lived in Parkersburg. I was about 7 years old,
Yeah.
and we moved to Fairmont, West Virginia.
Right.
And I always call Fairmont my hometown. But I've lived here far longer than I lived
Yeah.
in my hometown.
So in 1920, I heard you were in World War II.
Oh yes.
So how old were you when you went into the war?
Well, I enlisted. And if I told you what all happened there, it'd be kind of hard to believe. But I was going to college, and it was an ROTC college, which meant that if you took ROTC for 4 years, you were made a second lieutenant, commissioned second lieutenant. And I got up into the third year, and they came around and they said, if you enlist, you will be assigned back here to the college and finish out your semester. So, and if you don't, you'll be drafted.
Yeah, you had a choice there, Harry.
Yeah. So there was about, 35, 40 of us was given this proposition to do this. So we said, yeah, we'll enlist. So they shipped us all by train to Ohio, because that's where the enlistment fort was. And we all enlisted, and they put us, they gave us a week's for a little right off the bat, and we all got back on the train, came back home, and went back to school, and sure enough, they paid everything, and we were there. And, as I told you, it was a ROTC school, but they stopped that. There's no more commissions if you stay the 4 years. But they allow you to go to the 3-month training for the commission, which was in New Jersey. And so we went to New Jersey. It was in February. And that was the coldest I have ever been.
It always seems cold, doesn't it? Especially when they got you outside guarding the guardhouse.
So I was there for the 3 months, and everybody was looking to buy uniforms for the second lieutenant, and they said, well, we're going to extend this program for another month. So I went through the 3 months fine, but got into the 4th month. And the 3rd week of the 4th month, I was washed out. And sent to a camp in Missouri, down the southwest corner of Missouri.
So you went from a second lieutenant to a private.
No, I was a corporal.
Oh, okay. Well, they give you one stripe anyway, didn't they?
You were promoted to corporal when you went to the officers' training.
Okay.
And so I kept that. And this camp, well, the Army gave us 3 tests. They gave us general aptitude test, and which I did okay. They gave us a mechanical aptitude, which I really aced.
Right.
That was a very good one. And they gave us a signal corps test that I flunked. So the Army put me in the signal corps.
Well, of course, that's how they do things.
And so when I went down to Camp Crowder in Missouri, I was in the signal corps, and they started me through the signal corps programs.
And what year was all this going on?
Huh?
What year was this going on, do you recall?
Oh.
This before the war?
Oh, no,
Oh,
the
during
war
the war.
was on.
Okay.
Yeah, oh, yeah. It was during the war. The years have kind of left me. I can't keep track of those. But anyway, I used to go down to Arkansas. There was a little town down there that anybody that's ever heard of Walmart knows that little town.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And the man that started Walmart had a little 10-cent store in that town.
Yep.
And when Walmart announced they were starting to build and where they were from, I thought, they're not going to make it. Okay, there was all kind of marts, and he's still at it, and all the rest of them have folded. And I knowing now what I knew then, I would have been down at that little dime store buying some certificates from it.
So you you made it through Signal Corps?
So they sent us overseas. They sent us, either you went to the debarkation place in Pennsylvania, which sent you to Europe, or you went to Washington State, to the Seattle, Washington, which meant you were going to the Pacific. And they sent me to the Pacific, and a bunch of us, 25 or 30, I guess. And all the guys was really laughing at us. I went to Pennsylvania, and they let us on a troop ship. And I mean to tell you, it was packed. And we were up there, the troop ship, and here come those guys from Pennsylvania. And we poured it on them. And we went to Hawaii, and they put us in a camp there for a week, quarantine, because there was flu or something going on in Hawaii. And there was 3,000 of us there. And they called everybody back out and loaded everybody back on the ship except me and one other fellow. They said, you're going to be replacements here on the island at Fort Kamehameha, which was a long, slender fort right at the entrance to Pearl Harbor. And it had the 12-inch guns to protect the entrance to Pearl Harbor. And Fort Weaver across on the other side had 12-inch guns, both protecting. And we ran the telephone exchange there, automatic telephone exchange, running maintenance on it. First one I was ever in. But it didn't take long to figure out how it worked, and that's where I was and where I stayed all during the war. And we wrote to the fellows that was not picked out like me and this other fellow was, old Mac, and they wound up in Tokyo. They kept shipping them, and so they didn't have the nice life that we did in the Army.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of worse places to go than Hawaii, isn't there?
Well, I couldn't think of any place I wanted to go.
So what did you do after the war?
After the war, I came back. I took my discharge on the West Coast because I thought maybe I'd go to school, finish up my schooling there. But then I decided not to. And I hitchhiked from Seattle, Washington to Hartford, Connecticut.
Wow.
Well, wow's right. And it was a trip that I never regretted taking because I got to see the United States. I came all the way across to the Kansas City and went back down to my camp at the bottom of Missouri and see some old buddies there that didn't ship out, and hitchhiked back up. I guess it was Kansas City. No, the town on this side of Missouri. What's the name of it?
St. Louis?
St. Louis, yeah. And from St. Louis, I came on across. Oh, and in the Parkersburg, West Virginia, and that bridge across there was a toll bridge.
Right, still is.
And they made me pay a nickel to get back home,
Well,
my home state.
It's 50 cents now.
Is that right?
Yes. They built a new bridge to replace it, but they never got rid of the old one, and they still got a toll on it.
I told the guy, come across, he says, 5 cents. And I said, it's my hometown. I've come all the way across the United States, and you're going to charge me to come into my home state? He says, it's a nickel. And I gave him a nickel. I said, well, don't spend it all in one place. And you say it's 50 cents
50
now.
cents, yes. Yeah.
Well, I guess everything's going up a little
Going up
bit.
a little bit, yeah, yeah. So you went to Hartford, Connecticut. What was there?
Oh, well, when I left Parkersburg, the man picked me up, and I was riding with him, and he wanted me to help him drive, and I helped him drive, and he said he was going up to this town in Maryland, and I said, well, I can drive you up there. And I drove him up there, and he got sick. And the doctor told him, you're not driving anymore. So I said to him, I said, you've been pretty good to me, and I really not going to have any place to go now. I'll drive you on up to Hartford, Connecticut. And I did. And the people we stayed with there in Maryland was from Hartford, Connecticut. And we're going to her parents' house. Mm-hmm. And they invited me in, and the next morning I got up and I said, well, where's Drayton? And they says, he got up early this morning and left.
And left you in Hartford.
Yeah, and he lived up above Hartford. And so that meant I had to hitchhike back. Well, my parents had moved from Parkersburg to Pennsylvania, town up in Pennsylvania, place at the, they made material. I can't think of the name of the company, and the name of the town's not coming to me now. But anyway, I hitchhiked back up there. My dad was renting a house, and my parents were. My mother was back in Parkersburg taking care of my grandfather because he had gotten sick. And so I went back with my dad to Parkersburg, and his mother died. His father was still sick, my mother was still there, and an uncle who lived up in Michigan was going back home, and I had a cousin that had transferred to University of Michigan. And I said, well, I'll go up there and see him. I said, I'll ride up there with you. And so I did. And I was up in Michigan and visited with him for a while. And it was time for me to finish up my schooling, so I hitchhiked back to Morgantown, mm-hmm. West Virginia.
Went to West Virginia University there?
Yes. And finished up my schooling, got my degree in mechanical engineering. And
now your wife came along here somewhere. Where'd you meet her
yes,
at?
I'm trying to. My wife came to Fairmont, West Virginia, because she had a job in Fairmont. and she rented a room from my mother during the war. And when I came home on furlough one time, I met her there.
Oh, so you had a ready-made wife right there.
Well,
Your mother picked her out for you, sounds like.
yes. And we got married. And I found her diary one time. And I started reading her diary. And she says in the diary, she says, I don't know why my honey is not writing to me, so haven't heard from him. He doesn't write. I don't know why he hasn't written. I did get a nice letter from Harry Bowen. And I never let her forget it.
How long were you married, Harry? How long were you married?
Oh. What year did we get married?
Well, it had been more than 50 years.
Huh?
More than 50 years.
Oh, yeah, I was 58 years married to her.
Right.
No, 62 years.
Oh, okay.
I was married to her for 62 years. And she died.
About 10 years ago, I understand. Was it?
10 years ago? Well, yeah, it's been 10 or 12.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's correct.
Well, you were talking about hitchhiking around the country. That was a different time. People actually picked up the servicemen.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen today. In fact, I wouldn't even think about doing it today.
I don't know. You might, thinking you.
But that was a trip that I was never sorry that I had taken. As I said, I took my discharge in California, and I hitchhiked north to Seattle, Washington, because above Seattle, Washington was the home of the other fellow that stayed in Hawaii with me. He was the other fellow that was picked out. So I went up to see his parents and report to them how he was taking care of himself, and we were making sure that he didn't do anything wrong.
Well, I tell you what, you've had an experienced life. One of your neighbors, Linda Cook, sent me some pictures of you, and she told me that story about Vanna White. So why don't you tell us, again, your fixation on that young lady?
Well,
you like Wheel of Fortune, so.
She was Wheel of Fortune, yeah, and I watched Wheel of Fortune because I just wanted to watch Vanna White. And the neighbor woman heard about it, and she wrote to Vanna and asked her for an autograph picture for me.
Right.
And sure enough, Vanna sent an autograph picture with my name on it. And let me show it to you. Box.
Show us the picture there, Harry, so the camera can see it. So she sent you this book.
This book with the autograph in the front.
To Harry and Joy, love, Vanna White. There you go.
And I was instructed to frame the picture.
Yeah, yeah.
And she's telling me where to hang it.
This is your neighbor.
Yes. But we're at loggerheads there. I'm going to put it somewhere else, but I haven't quite decided just where.
All right. Yeah, she tells me all your stories. She's keeping an eye on you, Harry.
Keeping an eye? Boy, I'm telling you, she's checking on me every day.
Well,
which is fine. I'm glad somebody is. But she makes sure I take my pills every day, and I don't forget to eat my meals.
Yeah.
And haven't fallen down and can't get up.
That's an issue as you get a few years on you. And it's not when you're 100. It happens when you're 60 or 70. You got to be careful.
Well, yes, in fact, I got myself a cane, but that cane was more troublesome than without. I almost fell a couple of times with that cane.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to carry that cane. It's dangerous.
Well,
I've never had any problems. I shuffle around like some sailor on the high seas on shipboard, but still I'm able to walk.
you are. I see you down at LD's quite often. Is that one of your
Yes,
favorite places?
I go down there because I like their beet soup.
Yeah. Well, everyone knows you down there, Harry. They see you
Well,
come in.
yes.
Hello, Harry. Hello, Harry. Goodbye, Harry.
Yeah, they do. That makes me feel kind of good.
It
too.
does feel good. It's always, what do they say, like the bar of cheers. Everybody knows your name. Well, LD's is kind of like that. It's kind of like family, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I better watch what bars I go in.
Well, I was going to say, how many doctors have you outlived? I mean,
Doctors?
yeah.
Hey, I got a letter from a doctor saying you missed your appointment, and if you do that, you're going to be charged on a big amount of money. And I said, I went to that doctor's office, and they told me that she had moved to Washington, D.C. area. And then I checked, and I discovered that I had gone to the wrong office. And I have so many doctors, I got their names on a piece of paper now with what they do, and where they are, so I know where to go for my next appointment.
Well, and you drive yourself there.
Oh yeah, sure.
Harry's still driving.
I'm more comfortable behind the wheel of the car than I am anywhere else.
Yeah, you feel safe there, don't you? You're not going to fall.
Well, yes, in my business I drove, many 50, 60,000 miles a year.
Yeah, yeah.
And
It is comfortable. I do a lot of driving. I know you feel it's just a good place to be sometimes.
yes,
Your brain works.
I'm very comfortable driving. And well, when my neighbor goes with me, then she starts driving.
Yeah. And you don't feel as safe, do you?
She tells me when to turn, when to put on the turn signals, and when to slow down, and which routes to take.
You just turn your hearing aid down, you don't hear, do you?
Well, the hearing aids are a problem. I have 2 hearing aids, and the problem is that when women talk, it's up in the soprano range, and I don't comprehend what they're saying, particularly over the telephone. A woman will get in there and they'll start talking real fast, and I ask them to slow down, or I'll get a recording with a woman's recording voice on it, and it doesn't do a bit of good to say what.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that I'll be able to pick up a number to press to talk to somebody.
Yes, good luck on that. Well, Harry, you're going to be 100 years old here in 5 months. Did you ever think you'd live this long?
It never occurred to me to even think about it.
Right.
There's been nobody in my family, and I researched my father's family clear back to great-great-grandfather, and none of them have lived as long as I have. Now, I had my great-great-grandfather lived to be up in his 90s.
Well, for that long ago, that's pretty old.
Yes, he was married in the county next to this county, and his marriage certificate was there, and in with the marriage certificate was a letter from his father saying that he's old enough to get married. And back in those days, when you proposed to a girl, you had to post, it was $500. And if you backed out you lost the $500. But when you got married, you would present the marriage license and you got your $500 back. And I'm very sure that he didn't have the $500 to begin with. It was her family that put up the $500. So I guess they came out on top too.
Yeah, yeah. How about your family? Do you have family that live in Warren County, or?
No, we never had any relatives living here. There are some Bowens around here,
Right.
and if they are related to me, it goes back to that great grandfather, who, when he signed his letter, he said Orange County, but the problem is there was no record in Orange County of him. But the problem was Orange County, well, at one time, was a very big county.
Right.
I'm under the impression that this county was part of Orange County at one time. So it could be that they were from one of those other counties that was cut off from them.
Sure.
And I never bothered to check there to see if there was any of the
How large a
family.
family do you have?
Beg pardon?
How large a family do you have?
I have a son and daughter.
Okay.
My son was 20 years in the Navy. My daughter is a registered nurse. She has a master's degree in nursing. And
How about grandchildren?
I have, my daughter had a daughter and a son, and her daughter had died. That's her picture up there on top. And her son lives down close to where she lives in Virginia. Mm-hmm. And my son, as I said, spent 20 years in the Navy, and then he took a job in North Carolina, and he's down in Charlottesville, North Carolina, and his daughters are down there too. They have since gotten married, and they have children of their own.
And their children have had children by now, so you could be a great grandfather.
Yes.
Probably you got more than you can count. Let's put.
Well, actually, I'm a great grandfather. On my daughter's husband's first marriage daughter.
You got to keep track of them all.
Yeah, it's hard to keep track of it.
Yeah.
But when they told me how many greats I was, I couldn't believe it either. I had to stop and count them up.
Well, Harry, do you have any advice for us that's going to help us make it to 100?
People ask me that all the time, and I tell them the same thing. Keep breathing.
Just don't quit.
Actually, I'm asked this so many times, I got to think about what did I do? And it was probably because I was jogging. I started jogging at a very early age, back before jogging was the thing to do. As a matter of fact, the neighbor kids made fun of me. When I started out, I jogged a mile, and then I jogged for 2 miles. That got kind of boring, and so I would jog a mile, and then I had a small dog. I'd take the dog and take him for the other mile, slow jog, and I never stopped jogging. And I was jogging here. Even after this house was built, I was still jogging a mile. And it wasn't until the old legs just said, hey, we've had enough of this. And then I finally stopped, but I still walk.
Well, I see you walking around. You get around really pretty good,
Well, thank you.
and you keep moving. I think that's the secret. Is
It-
just don't stop.
Yes, the that exercise that I was doing is like as a result of my old age, in my opinion.
Your doctor says don't change anything. Just keep doing what you're doing, right?
That's right. Keep doing it. He said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
It's working.
And well, that's one of the doctors. In fact, he said, walk 2 miles. And when I was walking the measured miles, and so I had to get rid of that doctor.
Yeah, they always seem to have, they don't work, it doesn't work for them, but they want you to do it. You
Yeah.
tell them, I'm almost 100 years old. I think I've done the right thing.
Yeah, I think I got it down pretty good. I'm not looking for any advice on what to do.
You're in the giving advice stage now.
Yes, and I don't hesitate to tell them,
So what do you have planned coming up in the next 5 months?
keep moving.
No vacations, no trips, no
No,
round the
I'm
world
still
jobs?
bowling, and I expect to continue to bowl. And now I used to go to the gym, and then they closed it up on me.
Right.
And I found out just last week that they reopened the gym. So I'm going to start back there.
There you go.
In fact, I was going up there this morning, but then we had this meeting, and so I didn't go. But I will when I can.
Well, you live by yourself.
It doesn't bother me one little bit.
Yeah.
People say, well, don't you get bored? I never get bored.
My answer to that was told my kids, I said, only boring people get bored.
Well, if that's true,
I'm bored. I said, only boring people. I mean, so you're not boring, Harry.
well, I do talk to myself a good bit.
Well, you want an intelligent conversation and an answer. That's what.
It is an intelligent conversation. I have part of my most intelligent conversations are with myself.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. Anything you'd like to add before we stop?
No, I can't think of anything. I just about told you everything
Told me your life history.
that's going on, and
Well, we're going to come back when you're 100. Then we're going to talk about what you've done for the last 5 months. And
we are.
yeah, why not? I mean,
Well,
you got to have something to plan for. I think that's the trick too. You have to look towards the future and what you're going to do and make plans.
Well, it could be. As I said, I never really did that. It just came about.
Yeah.
And,
One foot in front of the
and
other.
a lot of people talk about, why you're hundreds like you have, and I tell them, don't make an old man out of me before my time.
Isn't it funny though how when we're looking at our own eyes that we don't seem to be that age at all? I mean,
That's true.
and I still, like they say, the mind is willing, but the body just kind of won't go. But we look through our own eyes and we don't think about the age. It doesn't,
Well, I got my daughter said that she noticed I was favoring my one leg when I walked, and I thought, well, I don't favor that leg. And it took a good while for me to remember that leg is shorter than the other leg.
Well, yeah, it makes it look like you're favoring it, doesn't it?
Yeah, and when I walk, apparently she picked up on it, being a nurse,
Sure,
and particularly a nurse of old people.
sure.
She picked up on it, but I haven't told her about the leg being shorter yet, but next time I see her, I will.
And you will tell her.
Yeah, I'll be sure to tell her.
Well, Harry, again, thank you so much for inviting us into your home.
Always, anytime.
And will we see you at LD's? And we'll get together. and we'll talk about what's happening in your life, and it's great. And again, I think it's good that you have a couple neighbors here that do keep an eye on you. And
Yes, if it wasn't for that, I would probably have put myself into a retirement home by now,
all right,
because just because there's nobody checking on me.
all right, all right.
But she does a good job of it, and she knows it, and she lets me know that she knows it,
And I know you appreciate it.
and I really do appreciate it, and she knows I appreciate it.
There you go. All right. Again, Harry, thank you so much, and we'll see you in 5 months.
Okay, see what happens.